Is it otherworldly or a synapse in the brain?
Only my guardian angel could have saved me from such an accident as that.
Again and again and again, as my guardian angel was here. Who is the guardian angel?
Well, that's the great mystery, isn't it?
Miracles often feel hard to believe, even to those who experience them.
There it goes, right out of my chest.
Yeah, there it goes. Wow. Yep.
What we witness can sometimes seem too extraordinary,
I said, oh, wow, that's an angel.
too far outside the norm, so we chalk it up to illusion or a moment of heightened imagination.
Hang on.
But what if these moments were captured on camera? If these miracles weren't caught on camera, would you believe them? Trucker dashcam miracle. Reality has rules, but every now and then, something or someone breaks them. That's what happened when a man pulled a girl and her grandmother from a burning car, without so much as a scorch mark on his skin. On August 11, 2014, David Fredrickson, a trucker, was heading down a Mississippi highway when his dashcam captured a catastrophe. An explosive crash that saw drivers and vehicles engulfed in flames.
It was a pretty big explosion, and then the road, the car, everything was on fire.
But the absurdity of this event starts when David reaches for his onboard fire extinguisher to douse the flames, probably the only driver on the highway with that sort of equipment. As he fought the thick plumes of smoke, he noticed something. A little girl hidden in the back seat. But saving her should have been impossible.
I seen this little head pop up in the back window, and immediately I was like, wow, they're alive.
The doors of the car became jammed, and the heat of the fire should have made prying it open next to impossible. But somehow, as you can see, David was able to struggle open the doors and save the child and her grandmother. And according to him, he didn't even feel the heat.
The car was just on fire there. I didn't burn my hands. It wasn't hot. I mean, I do believe that he protected me and protected them.
David puts it down to divine providence, that he was meant to save this little girl. And with every fortunate variable here, it's hard to argue this wasn't a miracle. Woman run over by train. Of all the sure ways to die, standing in front of a moving train has to be up there. Yet when disaster struck, an Indian woman faced that unimaginable moment. But instead of succumbing to the inevitable, she left with her very own miracle. As with most train stations in India, overcrowding has caused some serious injuries and even deaths. One day, as this woman was minding her own business with her 3 children, a desperate crowd pushed them onto tracks. Tracks that just so happened to have a high-speed 42-carriage train bounding toward them. Without even a thought at saving herself, this mother made a decision. She shielded her young with her own body as the train flew just over their heads. She left the tracks without even a scratch on her or her children's heads, or in other words, a miracle. Gettysburg Ghost. Battles leave their mark not just in history, but on the minds of those who witnessed them. But what if they also left behind the souls of those who fought? Well, just look at the battlefields of Gettysburg to see exactly that. One evening, a driver and his family saw 2 spectral apparitions dash into the distance as they made their way through the grounds. And you might see the same thing if you ever pass through. Having seen the deaths of over 50,000 soldiers during the American Civil War, maybe it's not just history that lingers here, but something far harder to explain. A reminder that the past isn't always gone. Russian teleporter. Now, some say paranormal experiences are just hallucinations, tricks your eyes play on you in the dark. But what if you saw it in broad daylight? On a Russian highway in 2012, dashcam footage shows a figure appearing out of seemingly nowhere, almost forcing a truck into a head-on collision. Enhancing the mystery is what the figure is wearing: a long white coat and a black hat, almost like a future scientist transported from a different dimension. Despite these odd details, the validity of this clip is supported by the real danger involved. It's unlikely anyone would risk such a hazardous setup just for a hoax. Others believe it's a civilian's ominous attempt to end their life. Yet neither theory has been proven, and the footage remains one of the best pieces of evidence for teleportation. Spirit rises after death. Hospitals are often the last place we see before we depart while alive anyway, because this CCTV footage from a Chinese hospital may have captured visible evidence of the soul moving on after death. In a still hospital bed, we see what looks like a patient resting, until an ethereal black figure begins to manifest, rising from their body. The hazy figure looks down at the body before drifting away. This footage has sparked debate. Some say the video quality makes it hard to trust, while others believe it offers a chilling glimpse into what might await us all beyond life, proof that death may not be the end, but simply a passage. Miracle healing. In 2010, a woman paralyzed for over 2 decades stood up and walked during a church service in Alabama, and the cameras were rolling. Delia Knox was a worship leader and gospel singer who had been in a wheelchair for 22 years after a car crash on Christmas Day in 1988 left her paralyzed from the waist down. That was until one day, on the way back home from a family trip, she and her husband attended a church event in Mobile, Alabama. This particular event was intended to be a healing service, the type of thing Delia often avoided, as it often brought her unwanted attention. But for whatever reason, this time she decided to attend, and as the service continued, she began to feel sensation in her legs. This was completely out of the norm. With encouragement from worshippers and her husband, she began to walk. Reports from scientists on the legitimacy of her healing are limited, as no formal medical documentation has been made public. However, observers note that the way Delia walks shows signs consistent with someone recovering from long-term paralysis, such as muscle weakness and coordination challenges caused by muscle atrophy, lending a degree of credibility to her claim by reflecting the realistic difficulties expected after decades of immobility. Man who slipped through time. Some scientists believe time can fold in on itself, that under the right conditions, you can slip between moments just for a second. This clip may show exactly that. Captured by a security camera in New Delhi, India, the footage shows a truck hurtling down a quiet road late at night. From the left, a cart puller slowly crosses the intersection, heading for a direct collision. There's no sign of brake lights, and the man crossing the street is completely unaware. But just as impact seems inevitable, something impossible happens. A dark figure rushes into frame. In a blink, the cart puller vanishes from the truck's path. A flash of light follows, and when it fades, both the man and his cart are safe on the roadside. The figure that saved him, gone, without a trace. What did the camera capture that night? A lucky coincidence, or a glitch in time itself? Japanese soul experiment. Did science just capture the soul on camera for the first time? A mysterious Japanese research group claims to have done just that. By inducing astral projection, a state where the spirit is said to leave the body, scientists hoped to observe the soul in real time. In the video, a woman slips into a deep trance. Then, something incredible happens. A white mist appears to manifest out of her body. Before forming into a clear human figure, the figure clearly walks around before entering back into the body. If genuine, this footage could be the first visual proof that the soul truly exists and that consciousness can separate from the body. Spirit possession. Has this clip finally proven the reality of spirit possession? Caught on CCTV, this footage shows a shadowy, vaporous figure exiting one man's body and then entering another's. The encounter happens in a public space, where two strangers briefly cross paths, when suddenly, the first man convulses violently as the dark figure emerges. This figure then swiftly moves into a second man, who immediately reacts with an abrupt change in posture and expression. Classic signs of possession. Experts who have analyzed similar phenomena point to sudden behavioral changes and loss of control as key indicators of spiritual intrusion. But the scene's unsettling normalcy raises alarming questions. Like how often might possession occur in our daily lives without us even knowing? If authentic, this footage suggests that spirit possession is not limited to folklore or religious settings, but may be an invisible threat lurking within our daily environments, challenging our understanding of consciousness and bodily autonomy. The Hajj family encounter. But not every supernatural encounter is so dark. In fact, this next clip is not only one of the most credible pieces of paranormal evidence, but also a powerful sign of hope in the afterlife. Back in 2018, in Atlanta, Georgia, Jennifer Hajj and her daughter Lauren were settling down for the evening with some TV until their home security system alerted them that someone was inside the house. Locked in what could have been a dangerous situation, Jennifer checked her phone, but what she didn't see was an intruder. Instead, she saw a ghostly figure dressed in white pajamas. That's when they realized it was her late son, Robbie. The captured photo bears a striking resemblance to her son, who had tragically died from an accidental overdose 4 years prior to this incident. The hard evidence and specificity of this case serve as a strong reminder of the reality of the supernatural and suggests that the bonds between people may have tangible effects that extend beyond death. Angel Girl. Doctors had done everything they could. Chelsea Banton was placed on life support and her family prepared to say goodbye. Then, hospital security cameras captured something incredible outside her room, something that changed everything. Chelsea Elise was no stranger to chronic illness. She had fought various medical conditions her entire life, and in 2008, when she was once again admitted to Carolina's medical center, it felt like the last time. Doctors diagnosed her with a staph infection on top of double pneumonia, a collapsed lung, and kidney failure. Chelsea's entire body was shutting down. The only way she could hang on was through a life support machine. Any attempt to remove it quickly led to deterioration. It seemed futile. Her family gathered to say their goodbyes and prepare to let Chelsea pass on until, just before life support was to be withdrawn, hospital security cameras recorded a bright, iridescent light engulfing her room. Moments later, Chelsea's condition began to improve, prompting speculation, whether it was a miracle, a trick of the camera, or something else entirely. Ghost on Live News. During an early morning report at Green Ridge Cemetery in Saratoga, a local news crew was filming a segment when something unusual appeared on camera. As the reporter spoke, a faint, white, transparent figure moved through the background. She didn't notice it at the time and continued the broadcast as normal. What stood out to many viewers was the clarity of the footage. This wasn't a blurry, dated security camera. This was caught in HD. A clear, professional news coverage with nothing obviously wrong with the image. And with the figure clearly visible on such a reliable recording, some began to wonder, could this be real evidence of something beyond explanation? Some disagreed, calling it a lens flare or an environmental effect like mist. But whatever it was, this clip stands out as one of the most intriguing, unexplained moments ever caught live on TV. Angel manifested by worshipers. In 2019, during a worship service at Vineyard Church of Anaheim in California, a luminous figure was spotted flying above the congregation. But this wasn't the product of an overactive imagination. It was captured on the church's own security camera. The figure appears only at the height of worship, as if it was manifested at that very moment. Testimony from the church's security director lends even more legitimacy to this event. In a comment, he said, "I was monitoring the video feed on the night of the service where this wonderful phenomenon happened. I'm a retired law enforcement person of 37 years, and I'm a grounded realist, but a staunch believer in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ." Despite careful review and investigation, no conventional explanation has been found. But it's clear that this is yet another instance where technology fails to fully explain what some believe is the supernatural. Run over without a scratch. It was an ordinary afternoon in Anápolis, Brazil. Vilma Teodoro had just picked up her 5-year-old grandson, Pedro Nascimento, from school. The two were walking home unaware that within seconds, their routine would be shattered. CCTV captured the moment a Chevrolet lost control, slamming into a parked Volkswagen and sending it hurtling backwards toward Vilma and Pedro. As the car brutally mows over the two, something incredible happens. After barely a second, the little boy gets up to check on his grandmother. Though the footage shows the car running over their bodies, neither sustained serious injuries. After being examined by doctors, Pedro was released with just a few bumps and bruises, intuitively calling his survival an act of God. If Providence could be caught on camera, this is it. A dead woman saves her own child. Jennifer Grosbeck had been dead for hours, but when rescuers got there, they heard a voice calling for help from inside the car. On March 6, 2015, Jennifer was driving home late at night with her 18-month-old daughter, Lily, when she struck a cement barrier on a bridge, flipping and plunging her car upside down into the Spanish Fork River. Reports state that Jennifer died on impact, but little Lily Grosbeck was hanging by a thread, suspended just inches above the icy water, strapped into her car seat in hypothermic conditions. She would remain like that for over 12 hours until a fisherman spotted the wreck and called for help the next morning. When police arrived, they didn't know anyone was inside, but as they approached the car, every officer heard the same thing, a woman's voice calling out, "Help us!" That was enough. The officers sprang into action, flipping the vehicle. But what they found left them shaken. Jennifer was already dead, and Lily, unconscious, was somehow still alive. So what did they hear that day? Was it just adrenaline-fueled imagination? Or a mother's final act of love reaching out from beyond the grave? Scottish River Ghost. Being alone in the woods can feel unsettling, especially when you find something unexpected. In 2015, a Scottish photographer found themselves in that exact situation. While filming on a river for otters, they captured the chilling apparition of what looks like a woman from the past. The figure is unmistakably gazing over the landscape, perhaps holding a lantern. Could this be proof of the local legends about ghostly watchers along the riverbanks? Maybe these stories are more than just myth. Since it was caught during an innocent wildlife shoot, it feels less like a stunt and more like an unfiltered glimpse into something real. Still, no one can say for sure what's on that footage. The mystery remains. Our Lady of Jaiton. Someone claiming to see a glowing woman on top of a church tower isn't exactly convincing. But what if it wasn't just one person? What if thousands saw it over and over again for years, and even took photos? Would you still write it off? Because that's exactly what happened in Egypt. It started in 1968, when two Muslim mechanics were working across the street from St. Mary's Coptic Church in Zaytun, a suburb of Cairo. At first, they thought a woman was about to jump from the roof, but then they saw she was glowing, dressed in white. Soon, a large crowd had gathered to witness the sight. But this wasn't a one-time incident. Over the next 3 years, the same glowing figure was seen repeatedly by more than 250,000 people, including the president of Egypt himself. After countless photos and witness sightings, the Marian apparition was officially recognized not only by the Coptic Church, but also by the government of Egypt. If thousands of people from different faiths, from believers to skeptics, witnessed the same unexplained event again and again, then what would you believe? Miracle balloon. Grief is one of the most painful experiences a human can bear. Yet even in the depths of loss, the human spirit can find meaning in incredible ways. At one funeral in the Philippines, that search took shape in the form of an object, a simple white balloon. Joy Alamares was grieving at her son Treb's wake when something unusual happened. A white balloon, resting behind Treb's small white coffin, began to move toward her. But it didn't just float toward the mother's direction. It turned and settled beside her, almost as if trying to offer comfort. The video of the moment quickly went viral. While the family believes it was Treb's spirit reaching out, others point to rational explanations like helium loss or a draft of wind. But whether by chance or something more, that is not the true miracle. The real miracle lies in what this moment tells us about human consciousness. The strength of the human will to find hope amid despair, Even something as simple as a bag of helium tells how far the human spirit can be pushed without breaking. The ability to find meaning in such moments is a fundamental part of how people cope with loss. Something science still fails to fully explain. So do you believe in miracles now? If so, subscribe and leave a like, and make sure you click the bell button to receive your own miracle. A new video every day.